Howdy, everybody. A bit of a shorter video this time. A commenter had asked me if I could figure out all of the event flags around Drake, one of the bosses in the Super Robot Y scenario, Aura Ladies. So I want to get some video evidence for that, and that's what this is going to be. To save myself some time, let me preface by saying all of these elements were tested on casual through expert, though expert's probably going to be the most pertinent difficulty, and these remain true throughout all 4 of those experiences. The point of this video is also not necessarily to show off the methods that I used to achieve these results. If you're interested in those, I'll be happy to explain them, but the point is more to see what happens with Drake rather than like forcing your way to get here. The reason being that I used a lot of New Game Plus features to get this. First, a brief showing of the map. We want to see what a normal map looks like so we can set a standard so that once we start triggering flags, we can know what has changed. I also want to open with what I'm sort of calling the 2 kind of neutral event flags. This is usually how I think of them in the game. First, I want to see what enemy count is going to force Drake to retreat normally. It does not matter which units are left on the map, be they bosses or generics. Whenever we hit the number 19, Drake is going to leave. Our other neutral case is turn count. Drake also leaves at the end of enemy phase turn 2. Now let's start getting into the weeds about how we can force Drake to leave. The first thing I wanted to test was, obviously, damage. I figured he was going to have some sort of retreat clause, but I did not imagine it was going to be just any damage. Daba was the only pilot I could get to this damage threshold, namely a 3-digit number, and Drake is still retreating at this point, so I feel comfortable saying that any amount of damage is going to force him to retreat. Which does beg the question, what if we did 0 damage? And yeah, he still leaves on that one too. I also tested these events with all the pilots that I could get there, namely Daba, Sho, and Marvel. I was unable to get Lassie or Ciela to actually get to Drake. I do think there are ways to do it, but they are needlessly obtuse and probably unrealistic for the context of when this question was asked, that being speedrunning. If you do know this information, if there's some difference between how Ciela and Lassie are going to interact with Drake, please pop it down in the comments. We would all appreciate hearing that. So now that we know that no damage gets Drake to retreat, what about maximum damage? Even if you destroy Drake, nothing else is going to change. He will still leave the map normally. We can see here that he drops no parts. I do have a number of other elements turned on, so I'm not exactly sure what his credit count is, but I can do that math pretty quickly if you want to find out. Here's my last test for Drake. I figure if we can do no damage to him and still force him to retreat, we may as well check to see what happens when he participates in combat, even if we don't. So I leave Daba in range of him for enemy phase and also opt to evade, and turns out that as long as Drake sees combat, basically any way, he is going to leave. This is a slight amount of hypothesization on my part. I was unable to produce a pilot who had 0% chance to hit him, but I have to imagine if we can evade and he's going to retreat, that a 0% chance to hit would still cause him to retreat. I've included here at the end all 4 of the other bosses dying. They don't interact with the map in any way or force Drake to retreat somehow, but I figured for thoroughness I should show them here too. I hope this little video was informative. I'm super open to doing this kind of thing again. There's not necessarily anything else following up on this kind of content. If you'd like to see any other stages of games I've already played on the channel handled in this kind of way, I will be happy to show those off if you'd like. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions about what happened here, feel free to shoot them down in the comments, and that'll wrap it up for me.